Hey guys, it's Abby and welcome back to another Media Journal with Me episode. Honestly, was not planning to film one recently, but I just watched everything everywhere all at once and I had to make a media journal spread about it. So previously we did 2000 rom-coms. Make sure to check that out. I'm still using the same list of materials from before, except that I actually coincidentally loaded a really nice set of inks for my two Kaweco Student fountain pens, which we're going to be using for today's video. I ended up not using the Uniball 1 pens, but it's always nice to have extra materials right with you. And of course, I'm still using my Xiaomi printer because the size is really great for film posters. So two of my good friends, Kara and Val, had convinced me to watch because they wanted to have a little discussion after. So here we are. I watched on the 1st of June. We have a nice cinema nearby. It was my first time watching in a cinema after 2 years, which was great. What better way to start going back to the cinema by watching a really great film? I wanted to incorporate a lot of these abstract elements and like shapes because that was the overall theme of the film. I won't put any spoilers, but there might be if you're reading the text. So I'm just gonna dictate to you some of the things that I wrote. Generally, we always have my basic info right beside the poster. So you have the genre, rating, starring, and release date. So this was a film by Daniels. I didn't know who actually they were, and then I watched all the videos after and I was like, oh, they actually have the same name. That is very cool. So on the right hand side, I am drawing the rocks. Not gonna give any context on that, but I just felt like I had to incorporate some of the elements that were in the film. There were many symbolisms. I also really like this quote that Waymond said. I'm gonna dictate it to you. When I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It is strategic and necessary. It's how I've learned to survive through everything. I really like this because it helped me sort of understand why you choose to see the good in things. I generally am a pessimistic person, so this film really made me rethink a lot of things in my own life. Because usually when I watch a film, I try to imagine myself in the protagonist's shoes, and this film was like, I'm not really into sci-fi actually, but once I started watching, it felt like a roller coaster of sorts. It also felt like I was being brought into the universe, especially with the cinematography. And quick side note, if you're going to ask why I never put 5 stars on my ratings, I just never do. So anything that has 4 stars primarily means that it's really, really, really good up to my standards. So anyway, when I first watched this, like the first few minutes, it felt like, they're trying to establish the scene, the storyline. I really appreciated that. I really like films that don't tell you what happened. They don't tell you, but you understand it as the film progresses and as the scenes unfold. And eventually, at some point, I was like, wait, what is happening? And I feel like it's sort of surreal that you are part of it as a spectator, because usually, like, when you watch films, like, you watch from a point of view, it's like you're not there, right? You're watching the film. But anyway, I wanted to really touch base on this because I don't generally watch films like this. I usually watch like coming of age, slice of life. Sometimes I have my rom-com moments, but this one was really something that hit me really hard because there were philosophical topics on, I guess, like existentialism, nihilism, and all these different facets of life as it unfolds and what is the meaning of life. I feel like that's one of the core messages of the film. The film also tackles a lot into the different universes. Not a spoiler, but I just found it interesting. Like, if you had alternate lives or if you lived alternate lives, what would it look like? Because by nature, every decision we make leads to another thing, and everything connects basically. And that is really explored in this film in a subtle way. I also like that there were some comedic episodes. Usually when you watch sci-fi, you're like so glued into it. And then there's gonna be like this funny antic and you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually funny. There were some parts that I kind of did not understand. and it took me a few more moments to actually absorb it. And then usually when I watch films, I go immediately to a film summary website. Most of the time it's Wikipedia, but after watching the film, I spent the whole night watching like behind the scenes videos, how they made the film, anatomy of a scene. I really like these videos because they help me understand the context. Also, when you watch a film for the first time, it's a lot to take in as a viewer, and honestly, I would watch this again just so I could see the colors, the visuals, the dialogue, and everything in between. Because as the title says, it was everything, everywhere, all at once. And that's how I felt the entire time I was watching the film. I also like that it reminds us to focus on things that are not actually tangible, like kindness, love, and mindfulness in some way. And as someone who is always struggling to focus and to be present, I mean, meditation helps, but sometimes it just gets out of hand. This film just really lived up to its expectations and really reminded me to focus on one thing at a time. Also, little side note, if you're Asian, I think you will resonate a lot with this film. I am not an immigrant myself, but the different topic points and upbringing here of like a Chinese has really resonated with me a lot, and I really appreciate that it was shown on the big screen. I also decided to draw another rock at the bottom part because it's meant to symbolize the mom and the kid. So the mom is Michelle Yeoh and the kid is Stephanie Su. By the way, which was funny because I've watched Mrs. Maisel so many times and Stephanie is there, so it's funny to see her here in this film. But either way, the cast was also really great. I wanted to hint also, I wrote somewhere that I really loved Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, coming from my knowledge of her from Freaky Friday, and now her character here seems minor, but she actually has a really good lasting impression on you. Actually, even if Michelle Yeoh was the main character, everyone felt like main characters, and I really like that because it really centers around this universal story and how everything really connects. And I also wanted to share that I'm pretty obsessed with this song. Is it a song? Melody? Claire de Lune. I mean, it's quite popular, but I just found it more endearing after watching this. There are some films that give me that lasting impression, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire also had that same impression with me for the Vivaldi composition that was there. So this one was by Claude Debussy. I don't know how to pronounce it. What else did I want to share? Yeah, it was just really a wild ride. It was really good. It was so well made. And lastly, I feel like having a woman be the main character really was a cherry on top for this film. I really like that, and I really appreciated that because usually films like these have like male protagonists, and it's about time that we get a female one. And overall, I really enjoyed this film. I think it was like 2 hours, but I just sat through the whole time at the cinema, and such good timing that it was my first time back after so long inside the cinema. I think we were only like maybe 6 people in the cinema, so at some point I was already hearing some of them crying. Of course, I also was having my little sobbing episodes. There were some scenes that really hit close to home. So yeah, I forgot to mention that the ink I used was Diamine Pumpkin for the orange and Sailor Ink Studio 143 for the blue. Here is the final spread for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you've watched the film as well. Bye!